What does it truly mean to be free? This is a question philosophers, lawmakers, and ordinary citizens have wrestled with for centuries. Here, we explore a powerful and perhaps surprising answer, that freedom is not something you possess alone. It has a shape, and that shape is built by the communities, relationships, and institutions that surround us. Welcome to the shape of liberty. We often think of freedom as something purely individual, the lone figure acting without constraint, but that's a myth. The traditional view treats freedom as an isolated personal possession, something you either have or don't have on your own. The reality is quite different. True autonomy depends on a network of supportive relationships and institutions. Abstract rights, like free speech or the right to choose, have no practical value without a real-world foundation to stand on. Freedom is not a vacuum. It needs structure to breathe. Think of a building under construction. Without scaffolding, even the most beautifully designed structure cannot rise effectively. That scaffolding is made up of human freedom. We are socially embedded beings. We require a supportive environment to exercise our rights effectively. That scaffolding is made up of families, schools, and civic groups. These community structures provide the foundation for critical reflection and meaningful decision-making. They support the practical value of our individual rights. Even something as fundamental as free speech only functions when it exists within an environment of mutual respect. Remove the scaffolding, and rights lose their power. Freedom doesn't exist in a one-way street. Community living is governed by an implicit agreement, what philosophers call the social contract. We balance the isolated freedom of the self with the protection and benefits of a cohesive society. On one side of the scale, individual freedom. On the other, community service. These must be kept in balance. Freedoms are always relative to the rights of others. No liberty is absolute. And in a representative democracy, that balance is maintained through shared obligation and the power of the people to hold their leaders accountable. Freedom, at its core, requires reciprocity. Traditionally, rights have been seen as shields, barriers that protect the individual against the power of the collective. That view has value, but it's incomplete. Modern legal scholars are advancing a different framework, relational rights. Rather than acting purely as barriers, rights can serve as bridges, tools designed to foster and protect the human relationships at the heart of social life. And this makes sense, because humans are naturally pro-social. We have an inherent capacity to act for the benefit of our communities alongside our own interests. When we design systems that leverage this through mutualism, we create win-win outcomes for both the individual and the whole. Who are you, apart from the world that shaped you? Communitarian philosophy poses a challenging idea that individual identity and well-being are deeply rooted in community life. As individuals, we thrive in community. Like a puzzle piece that only makes sense when placed within the larger picture, we as individuals find our full meaning in relation to others. There is always a balance between the well-being of the community and the well-being of the individual. And here's the key insight. Fulfilling our duties to the community is not a restriction on the self. It is the necessary medium through which an individual achieves their full potential. Philosopher Isaiah Berlin gave us one of the most important maps of freedom ever drawn. He identified two distinct types of liberty. The first is freedom from, a protective private sphere where an individual can act without external interference. Think of it as the zone around you that no government or other person has the right to invade. The second is freedom to, the capacity for self-determination and self-mastery. This is the ability to take hold of your own destiny and steer it. But Berlin issued a critical warning. Positive liberty, freedom to, can be distorted. Authorities may claim to act in the name of your true self while actually stripping you of your autonomy. Liberty has boundaries,
and understanding them protects us.
Economist and philosopher Amartya Sen reframed the entire conversation around freedom. For Sen, freedom is not just an outcome, it is the very means by which human development happens. Through his capabilities approach, Sen argues that what matters is whether people have substantive opportunities, access to education, healthcare, and political voice, the stepping stones to a life they have reason to value. This redefines poverty entirely. Poverty is not merely low income. Poverty is the deprivation of basic capabilities and freedoms. Expanding these freedoms, Sen argues, must be a social commitment because individual agency is always shaped by the opportunities available within a community.
John Stuart Mill had a bold conviction. Society doesn't advance by agreeing, it advances by colliding. The free exchange and clash of different opinions is the very mechanism through which truth is discovered and intellectual stagnation is prevented. The freedom to dissent, to experiment, to live differently, these are not threats to society. They are the engine of its progress. When individuals are free to think and act distinctively, they produce the innovation required to maintain a high-performance culture. Freedom, for Mill, is not merely a personal benefit. It is a functional necessity for the continuous improvement of the human condition.
For Immanuel Kant, freedom meant something very precise and very demanding. True freedom is not the ability to follow your impulses or bend to social pressure. It is the capacity to use reason to guide your own behavior. Think of it like a compass, not pointing wherever the wind blows, but always orienting toward true north. This rational self-governance is what Kant called autonomy, and it is the very quality that makes us moral agents. When we act according to reason rather than reflex, we exercise genuine freedom. And that capacity for rational self-governance is the foundation of both human dignity and our moral responsibility to one another within a community. Political theorist Bernard Manin offers a practical and powerful view of freedom in governance. In representative democracies, the freedom of citizens to choose and to remove their leaders acts as the ultimate safety valve. It is the mechanism that keeps pressure from building to a breaking point. When freedom is a vital force in the citizenry, it demands accountability from leaders, provides political legitimacy, and ensures the ongoing development and well-being of both citizens and society. Freedom here is not an abstract ideal. It is a concrete tool that keeps government responsive, honest, and in service of the people it represents. Let's bring it all together. The shape of liberty is built from 5 essential components, each championed by a great thinker. Amartya Sen gives us the foundation, building capabilities and substantive opportunities for all. Isaiah Berlin defines the boundaries, the negative protection and positive self-mastery that define our sphere of freedom. J.S. Mill powers the engine, driving progress through debate and the collision of ideas. Immanuel Kant provides the compass, ensuring rational, moral self-governance guides our actions. And Bernard Manin installs the safety valve, maintaining public accountability and political legitimacy. Each component is essential. Together, they form a complete and resilient architecture of liberty. What happens when people lose their agency? When the ability to make decisions and act independently is suppressed? They stop asking questions. They stop pushing back. They become conditioned to accept authority without question. And when that happens, the strength of democratic institutions quietly erodes. That is the danger of passive compliance. The antidote is participatory agency. Resilient societies require individuals who are actively engaged, who have a genuine right to ownership over their own learning and their own work. Not spectators, but participants. Not subjects, but citizens. Freedom is what makes that active engagement possible. When all the pieces come together, the foundation of capabilities, the boundaries of liberty, the engine of free thought,
The compass of reason, the safety valve of accountability, and the active participation of citizens, something remarkable happens. The system becomes resilient. A commitment to freedom is a commitment to creating an active, engaged citizenry. And when the structure is complete, the interaction of all its parts creates something sustainable, a system that benefits both the individual and the whole. This is systemic resilience. This is what freedom, properly understood, makes possible. We end where we began, with a fundamental truth. Freedom is not a solo endeavor. True liberty is not something any one of us can build or maintain alone. It is a shared project, constructed through community, sustained by reciprocity, and kept alive through active participation. The shape of liberty is the shape of us together.